Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 26.5 to the public. iOS 26.5 is available around the world at the same time for everyone on all iOS 26 supported devices. If you're not seeing the update, you can find it under Settings, then General, and then Software Update. If you're still not seeing it, back out, then go back into Software Update or pull down to refresh, and you should see it here. Now this update includes many new features and changes as well as bug fixes and more, so if you want to jump to any specific part of the video, be sure to check out the chapters in the description below. Now the first thing they've updated is encryption and messages. We'll come back to that later, but the first physical change has to do with maps. And within maps, nearby places has been replaced with just new suggestions at the top with all new glyphs for things such as fast food, gas stations, restaurants, and more. We also now have a new category for suggested places that are nearby. To go along with this, Apple will add some new ads within Maps, just like they do in the App Store, where it won't be as invasive, but it will be when you're searching. It will suggest local places that have advertised. So that's something we could see in the near future. However, we're not sure when it will show up, but it will show up in specific parts of the world. Apple has added a new wallpaper in iOS 26.5. If we press and hold, swipe over, go to add a new wallpaper. And within wallpaper, if we scroll down, you'll see that we have some new Pride wallpaper. This is the Pride Luminance wallpaper, and if we scroll over, you'll see that we have a bunch of different options, but at the very end, it's customizable. You can select up to 12 different colors and fully customize it based on whatever your preference are. So you'll see here as we continue to select, we'll select some different colors, and we have multiple pages of colors. So fully customize this with up to 12 colors, however you'd like, and this goes along with a new watch face they introduced as well. So within the Watch app, if we go to Face Gallery here, you'll see that you have the same sort of watch face to go along with it with Pride Luminance. Again, fully customizable. As I mentioned before, Apple did add RCS End-to-End Encryption in iOS 26.5. If we go into our Settings, Apps, and then down to Messages, you'll see within Messages, if we scroll down, we have the option for RCS depending on where you live. Within RCS messaging, you'll see the option for End-to-End Encryption, but it's still in beta, which means it's rolling out slowly across the world as well as to different carriers. But it does say that End-to-End Encryption is in beta and not available for all devices or carriers. Conversations labeled as encrypted are encrypted end-to-end, so messages can't be read while they're sent between devices. And I can show you what this looks like. You'll see I've been testing this back and forth, and at the top it says not encrypted, then it says encrypted here with a little lock next to it. It will also let you know if iMessage is encrypted as well. Notification forwarding has been updated in the European Union, allowing them to forward to third-party devices. Now, depending on where you live, of course, you may or may not have this. In the United States, we don't, but if you go into your notification settings, you can see that it says forwarding and then notifications. If you have devices there, it will say forward to, allowing you to forward maybe to third-party watches as well as third-party devices. In addition to this, to comply with the same rules in the European Union, it will also allow live activities to be pushed to third-party devices, and then also allows for quick pairing. This is similar to what we have with AirPods, so if you open up AirPods, they quickly pair with your device or show up that they're connected. So depending on the device, you'll see that it's showing up here, and you should get this same sort of dialogue in third-party devices in the near future. When it comes to reminders, there's a slight update here. If we go to our lock screen and press and hold on a reminder that's letting us know that I need to make a video here, press and hold and it will now say, remind me at 9 a.m. Prior to this update, it would say, remind me this afternoon or remind me this evening. Now it's giving a specific time. Within the App Store, Apple is adding more subscription options for developers to implement. So for example, there's a new option for developers to charge a yearly subscription with a 12-month commitment that you can pay monthly with the option to cancel at any time. So this is something that developers can implement in future updates if they're wanting to give you that subscription option. There's a new option if you want to transfer your iPhone over to an Android phone. You can find it under Settings, General, and then Transfer or Reset, and then Transfer to Android. While this part isn't new, when you are in the transfer process, it will ask you how many of your messages you want to transfer, giving you the option of 30 days, 1 year, or all of them. So if you're transferring to a Pixel 10 Pro XL or another Android device, you'll now have that option if you don't want to move everything over. Apple has also added some keyboard updates. If we go into our Settings, General, and then scroll down to where we have Keyboard, then we go to Add a new keyboard, scroll all the way down to the letter I, we have a couple new options here, with Inuktitut and Inuktitut Latin. iOS 26.5 also lays the foundation for awards within books, similar to what you get with activities if you're working out with your watch or within the fitness app. So this gives you a few different options that we should see in the near future, with things such as year in review like they do with Apple Music, as well as achievements with the Loyal Reader, Reading Royalty, the Power Reader, and more. So those should be popping up if you're using the Books app throughout the year later on. Now, there was a feature that quite a few people were excited about, and that was the ability to quickly pair devices such as a Magic Trackpad, Magic Keyboard, or Magic Mouse. If we connect the trackpad directly to the iPad here, we can now utilize the trackpad, of course, and move around the mouse. However, prior to this update, with some of the earlier betas, if you disconnected it, it would automatically wirelessly pair to that device. Now it just jumps back to whatever Mac you already have it paired with. So that's something that doesn't seem to be updated where it was in the betas. Maybe it will be available in iOS 26.6. It also seems that you can still AirDrop to a Pixel device or an S26 Ultra or a Samsung device. So let's go ahead and test it out and make sure it's still working. So if we go in here, go to Quick Share, it says ready to receive. We'll go to AirDrop, wait for it to show up here. Hopefully it shows up. We're just waiting for it to receive here. And there we go. It's shown up. We'll go ahead and tap, and it looks like we can accept the wallpaper and transfer it right over. As far as Apple Intelligence and Siri 2.0, unfortunately iOS 26.5 has no updates here, so we're not seeing any changes here. I would expect Apple to push this to iOS 26.6 or more likely iOS 27 at this point, where we'll see the new Siri 2.0 updates along with Apple Intelligence updates. As far as bugs and bug fixes, well, there's quite a few to talk about. The first issue affected people making phone calls. If you had a large number of contacts, some people were not able to place or receive phone calls. That's been fixed in this update. Also, when it comes to the keyboard, if you maybe had the keyboard set to a different language outside of English, sometimes you wouldn't see the keyboard if a password prompt showed up. So maybe you were using an alternative language here other than English. You would unfortunately not see that password prompt. That's been fixed. Now, if you had trusted certificates, sometimes it would give you a fail message saying it was not standards compliant, even though it was standards compliant. That's been resolved in this update. If you have an iPad with cellular connectivity, you may have noticed that it was dropping connectivity with iOS 26.4 or later. That's been fixed in iOS 26.5. It also fixes an issue with extensions, specifically in Safari, if you're using compact tabs. Sometimes if you're using compact tabs within Safari, if we go to our extensions here, tap on the extension, oftentimes it would just fail. So this is something that's been resolved where it will now open instead of crashing the browser altogether. They've also fixed an issue with text to Siri. So now if we type app for the App Store, you can quickly open up the App Store where that wouldn't work at all before in prior versions, and it's now working properly, giving suggestions and options. The same is true with Spotlight Search. So maybe if we type app, you'll see that it shows App Store. If I type the spacebar, it will give suggestions. However, sometimes they do disappear. So this looks like it may not entirely be fixed, but at least it's letting us type in here now. Apple CarPlay is definitely much better. I've used it for at least 2 hours at this point, and it seems like it's much, much better with iOS 26.5. It's not disconnecting on its own. It's staying connected. Things like music is working properly. Connectivity is working great, and it seems to be much better. Now, unfortunately, the wallpaper bug has not been fixed. I thought it was, but now with a very vibrant wallpaper that you can see here, if I swipe home, it desaturates. Prior to this, it would sort of resaturate, but right now it's desaturating still. So it looks like they haven't resolved that. However, RAM management definitely seems to be a lot better. So going into maybe apps such as music, going into podcasts, things like that don't seem to reload as often, and you can open up many apps depending on what they are, and they'll stay open without reloading. We also expect some security updates, and you can see here that they have the prior version, but unfortunately no iOS 26.5 just yet. Now, it may show up by the time you're watching this video, but usually Apple will push it out after they release the update, after maybe an hour or two. So you should see this soon with quite a few updates. When it comes to future releases, well, iOS 26.6 Beta 1 we could see as soon as this week or possibly next week. So we could see the next betas, and then of course on June 8th we'll see iOS 27 for the first time, and typically after WWDC 2026 and the first keynote, we'll see iOS 27 Beta 1 released to the developers. Now, we may not see any other updates for a couple weeks after that, and then we'll usually see a public beta in July with a public release sometime in September around the iPhone 18 launch. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.5, at this point I would say absolutely. Not only for the security updates, but the experience itself seems to be a much better experience than before. It's not without its issues, as I mentioned before, but going in and out of apps is smooth, going over maybe to the app library and scrolling, ProMotion is nice and fast, and the general update seems to be much better. You'll see as we scroll home there, it's much smoother, and again, you'll see stutters from time to time, but the overall experience seems to be much better than the prior updates. When it comes to overall heat, well, it definitely heats up from time to time, but it does seem to be a little bit cooler than iOS 26.4. Let's go ahead and run benchmarks, and we'll take a look at this. And if we take a look at thermals at the hottest point, we're right around 38 degrees Celsius. So this is slightly cooler than we saw before, and it seems to be performing well. Let's wait for it to complete running benchmarks, and then we'll take a look at those. We'll take a look at benchmarks in a moment, but if we take a look at battery life, if we go to battery health, you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 81 cycles. If we take a look at overall usage, my usage goes up and down depending on the version I was running. My best day was 4 hours and 54 minutes of screen active time at 3 hours and 28 minutes of screen idle time, using 73% of the battery. Now, I've seen some people get up to 12 to 14 hours of screen on time with this update on a 17 Pro Max. So for the most part, it seems like it's a pretty decent update for those that have installed the earlier versions that were released to developers and beta testers. As far as benchmarks, if we take a look at the best score I've seen, I ran this numerous times. You'll see I had 3,866 for single core, 9,828 for multi-core. I've seen some people report over 10,000 on the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, and typically this is well within the margin of error. It can go up and down depending on when you're running it, what's running in the background, and everything else. But as I mentioned before, it seems to be super smooth for the most part, with occasional stutters here and there, but much better than before, especially compared to iOS 26.4. So that's everything with iOS 26.5. It's not a huge update, but does offer some nice features and bug fixes. This is probably the last major update we'll see until iOS 27 is shown for the first time, and then we'll have concurrent updates with iOS 26.6 and iOS 27 betas throughout the summer, and then of course that public release later in the fall. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, as well as your experience with iOS 26.5, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.